So the world kind of feels like it's unraveling, and fear, anger, and uncertainty are everywhere. So how do we stay grounded? Today, Fletcher Ellingson returns to share some practical tools to build emotional resilience, reconnect with our purpose, and start feeling good again. This is Gratitude Geek. I'm Candice Rodarty, productivity coach for female solopreneurs over 40. And today we're talking to Fletcher Ellingson, the author of The Practice of Feeling Good. The subtitle is How to Upgrade Your Thinking and Live a Feel-Good Life. But today we want to talk about fear and emotional resilience. So how you doing now, Fletcher? It's been about 6 months. What have you been up to?
Well, I've been working on the business, and I am not going to lie because being honest is important to me. So I'm not going to say I'm doing fantastic as I have been in the past, but I will say this. It's the past couple months have been kind of rough for me, and it's been an opportunity to practice what I preach, which is the practice of feeling good. It's not always about being happy. Part of the practice of feeling good is feeling grounded, feeling certain, feeling connected, feeling like I've got this, like I can do it, like I can get through it. It's been a little bit, been challenging on a number of fronts, and I'm practicing feeling good in the face of that.
And it is a practice.
Yes, it is.
And right now, I feel so disconnected from so much. Like, the reality of the world isn't the reality that I want it to be. And I know I'm not the only one.
Yes.
And it's weird. And, 6 months ago, we had a much different conversation. The world is different today than it was 6 months ago.
Dramatically
for everyone.
different. Yes.
Dramatically different. And it just doesn't feel good. So when you were here last time, it was episode 251. We chatted about reframing limiting beliefs, values versus standards, which was a very interesting conversation. So I encourage you to go back and listen to episode 251, because that whole values versus standards conversation is worth the listen. And then we talked about the negative news. And the other day, it just dawned on me that the news isn't negative. We've just been told it is. We have been told to stop watching the negative news because, and this is going to sound like a conspiracy theory, and it is, because the man wants us, and I'm just saying the man, in air quotes,
yes,
wants us to not be paying attention to what's going on. And so many of us aren't. And that is what's creating the fear. But that's I'm getting all worked up about this because I have fear.
Yeah.
I have fear
Yeah.
that the world that I thought I lived in doesn't exist anymore. So how do we fix this?
Boy,
Can you fix it?
This is such a good topic because a lot of people are feeling fearful, right? And fear comes when we feel uncertain. That's the underlying thought process is, whoa, I don't have a sense of certainty about what's going to happen. So when we feel uncertain about what's going to happen, we experience this thing called fear, right? And we usually go to the worst case scenario, and it's not a bad thing. Fear is trying to protect us. It's trying to warn us. Like the ultimate message of fear is, hey, pay attention. You might be in danger. Now it's up to you and me, Candice, to determine are we in danger, and what is there to do about it, if anything. And if we're not in danger, then what's actually accurate? So I think those are some good questions where we can begin, right?
Well, in your book, in chapter 4 of your book, is all about fear. And you have there are 3 basic types of fear that all fear boils down to 3 different types.
Yeah.
What are they?
Yeah, so there's the fear of loss. And right now, many Americans are experiencing a fear of loss. They're experiencing what if I lose the current, what if I lose the United States that I'm used to, that I've felt certain about? What if I lose certain liberties? What if I lose friends? What if I lose family? Right? What if I lose an opportunity for education? I mean, there's all sorts of fears. What if I lose money? What if I lose my job?
Healthcare,
Right? Social Security. There's all sorts of fears. Now, and I'm not making light of any of these because it's all possible, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the fear of loss.
We've already reached a point where we have lost friends and we have lost family.
Exactly. Yeah. And so
we're beyond that fear. We are in the reality stages of that part of loss.
Yes. And
for many of us.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a reality for many. And so fear of loss is a big one. And so then there's also the fear of failure. We all can relate to that, especially like entrepreneurs, right? Mm-hmm. We deal with that.
And I think that a lot of this, for those of us who are feeling the fear right now, mm-hmm. it is a feeling of failure mm-hmm. because we failed to realize the ideal United States that we saw, that we felt we lived in.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, we thought that many of us thought that something like this could never happen, where rights are slowly peeled away, right? Mm-hmm. We never thought that only happens in other countries. So so there's loss, there's a fear of failure, like the system in overall is failing. But the mother of all fears is really the fear of not being good enough. Or a different flavor of that is the fear of not having what it takes to get through a situation. And that might be get through a marriage, get through a failing business, get through a struggling education, whatever it is, right? Not sure I have what it takes. And that's a terrible fear to deal with.
Yeah. So what do we do about it?
Mm-hmm. So
can you fix it?
Yeah,
I'm putting a lot of burden on your shoulders, dude. The whole world.
The whole world. Fix the whole world.
It's on your shoulders, yes.
But this is a great question. What do we do in the face of fear? So we go back to the initial question, which is your brain wants you to focus on, hey, pay attention. You might be in danger. So am I in danger? Well, we might be. Okay? So we might be. So you might have to take some actions you've not taken before. You might have to get involved with some groups. You might have to speak up. You might have to donate some money where you've not donated before. You might have to begin taking some actions that you've not taken before. But before we get to any of that, because we don't want to rush to the fix, we want to start back further, and we want to really look at what is at the core of fear. We have to understand what's at the core of fear so that we can effectively deal with it. So what's at the core of fear? It's a good question, right? Consider that at the core of fear is simply a story and nothing more. It's a story. It's a story that I may lose, I may fail, I might not be good enough. That's a story. Now, every time I face a fear, I realize that what I'm actually facing is a story. So, and that story is always future-based. It's what might happen. What will happen if? So, now we all know that the brain can't tell the difference between what's real, what's not real, what's future, what's past. It reacts like it's happening now. So this is the other way we deal with fear. Oh, where is that concern? Is it past, future, or present? Now, in this case, some of it can be present and future-based, right? But what we're usually afraid of is we don't want that thing that did happen in the past to happen again in the future. So we've got to go ahead.
That comes back to the not wanting us to be paying attention.
Yes.
You know, yeah. I don't want to get too political.
Yeah. So
it's hard not to.
I've been a magician.
You're a magician?
For 35 years, and one of the principles in magic is the larger motion distracts you from the smaller motion. So in magic, a grand gesture will draw your attention away from the thing that you do not want your audience to see, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of that going on. And there's so much of it that it's hard to know where to place your focus. It just keeps on coming at you, like boom, boom, boom every day. So you begin to question, like, what should I be paying attention to? But let's get back to the story, because the story is going to be critical in how we effectively deal with fear.
Thanks for keeping me on track.
Sure. So if at the heart of fear is a story. And that story, remember, is always going to be one of those three flavors: fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of not being good enough. They're all some sort of flavor of not being good enough ultimately. So if that's the story, we now have to ask, is that story accurate? Candace, do you have what it takes to get through whatever comes your way?
I have so far.
You have so far, and that is the exact answer I was hoping you would say. You have, every day of your life, you've gotten through it. And there have been a lot of days where the things that you've been getting through have not been pretty. They have not been pleasant. They have not felt good. You did not want to have to get through them, but you, Candace, you got through them. And that's the important story that we want to focus on. Instead of getting lost in, I don't know if I have what it takes. Oh yeah. I've gotten through every day of my life. Every challenge that has come my way, I have made it through. Now, you may not have made it through prettily, you may not have done well, you may not have excelled, but you did get through it. There were lots of lessons that you learned, right? There were scraped knees and lots of tears and blood, sweat, and all that stuff, but you got through it.
Done is better than perfect.
And done is better than perfect. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. So that's the story that we want to begin to focus on. Hey, we get through this. It's not what we want. It's not our preference. It's not in alignment with our vision. But we ultimately get through this. And that brings us into really the inspiring and feel-good part of this opportunity to deal with fear. Because the only time that we can feel courageous is when fear is present. Right?
That's the truth.
And don't we love people who are courageous? I mean, we absolutely love that courage protagonist in the movie. You know, they've been beaten down. They've come up against walls, right? They've come up with external conflict, internal conflict, and at some point in the movie, there's a turning point, right? And that protagonist steps up and steps into courage and says the thing or does the thing, and the audience wants to stand up and cheer, right? That's courage. Courage is powerful. But the only time that we can experience it is if fear is present. You will not be able to have courage if fear is not present. So courage, in the book I write, courage is actually the gift of fear. And it is fear's kryptonite.
That's a good quote. Courage is the kryptonite of fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And so then we go one step further and ask another deep question. What is at the core of courage?
What is at the core of courage?
Yeah, this is what's exciting. It's simply a story. But it's a completely different story than the fear-based story. So if the fire engine, there's a fire in an apartment complex and the fire engines come roaring up to the apartment complex, flames are, and smoke are billowing out the roof. There are people at the windows, crying for help. They're trapped in there. Those firefighters, they have a healthy amount of fear. And the message that fear is saying, like, hey, you might be in danger. You probably shouldn't go in there. In fact, there might be stories racing through their thoughts as like, hey, this is too far gone. There's nothing you can do about this. You're best to go home. You may not come out alive. That's a story. Now, if we pay attention to that, that's going to amplify our fear. And we're going to find it hard to take any action because we're focused on the fear story, right? But what they go to is a different story. They focus on the story that they've been trained to have, which is the courage story. Hey, we've got what it takes to do this. We've trained for this. I have my team around me. They've got my back. We've done it before. We can do it now. We've got excellent equipment, right? So what they're focused on is a story of courage, and that allows them to take action in the face of their fear. That courage story is incredibly powerful.
So we're talking to Fletcher Ellingson. He's the author of The Practice of Feeling Good. The Practice of Feeling Good is available on my favorite bookseller, bookshop.org. I like to support bookshop.org because they pay a full commission to your local independently owned bookshop. And if you use the link in the notes to purchase Fletcher's book, I might also receive a little compensation for that, which will go towards financing this show, Gratitude Geek. So Fletcher, thank you for your book. Thank you for making it available on bookshop.org. I really do love that platform for the way that they support independent booksellers. Okay, so courage is the kryptonite of fear.
Yes.
Learning how to reframe our story is the way we overcome fear. But how do we do that? Mm-hmm. How do we tell ourselves a different story? Where do we start?
Okay, great question, and this all comes back to the practice. So where we start is by being intentional. So I'm upset, I'm fearful about a particular situation, right? Whether the state of the country, whether it's my marriage, whether it's a business, whatever. There's fear there. Step one, identify what the fear is. Am I fearful of losing? Am I fearful of failing? Am I fearful that I just don't have what it takes? Am I fearful that I'm not good enough? Identify which one or more of the stories that it is so that you can effectively deal with, because if you're going to effectively deal with it, what you're going to be doing is rewriting that story, right? So the story is, if the story is I don't have what it takes or I'm not good enough, the story ultimately is going to be rewritten so that it is some form that I do have what it takes. I do have what it takes. I am good enough. Okay? I don't know all the words that you're going to choose or not, but number one, identify. Number two, rewrite the story. We get through this. Other people have done it. I can do it. Other people have paved the way for me. I can do it. Oh, I don't know how to do it? I'll learn how to do it. I'm resourceful, capable, and flexible. That's another story. It's one of my favorite stories.
That's a good... I'm resourceful. I'm resourceful. Say it again.
Yeah.
Capable.
And flexible.
I'm resourceful, capable, and flexible. That, because I was going to ask you, how do we rewrite the story when the thing that you're most afraid of is something that's completely out of your control?
Yes.
Like I'm afraid of losing my health care. I mean, that's out of my control. But if I'm resourceful and I'm capable,
yes,
I'll figure out a different way.
Exactly. And that is a feel-good story. That story feels good chemically in our body, as opposed to, oh my God, if my health care goes away, I'm totally hosed. I can't, my life is going to end. Right? Yeah. That's what fear, that's the fear story. That would, oh boy, focus on that one. How good are you going to feel, right? And it's not just about, we're not looking to feel good just for the sake of feeling good. We're looking to feel good, meaning confidence, connected, right? All those ways. We're looking at because when we feel good, the actions we take are dramatically different from when we feel bad or terrible or fearful, right? Or ashamed or guilty or disconnected or lonely. When we are feeling good in our life, in our body, in our mind, we take different actions. That's why I put so much emphasis on this, the practice of feeling good. Because when we do that, we learn better, we communicate better, right? We marriage better, we live better, we love better. So, and we problem solve better.
And so a lot of folks think feeling good is that endorphin. I don't know which endorphin is the feel good endorphin. Do you?
Yeah, well, there's dopamine, there's oxytocin, yeah, there's serotonin.
So those feel good hormones can be artificially stimulated, but what you're really talking about is homeostasis, feeling good as a homeostasis setting, like feel humming, like everything is good, not just this temporarily hit of feel good endorphins, but a humming. Everything just feels good.
Yeah, it's a great way of saying it.
It feels a little bit unreachable, but when I reset to normal, I smile and hum. That's my normal.
Yes.
I don't feel normal right now, but that is my normal. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have told me that they love me because I smile all the time. That's just and I don't know why it's my default setting.
Yeah.
It just is. But your default setting can be changed.
I'm sure glad you said that. We all have an emotional default setting, because some people you get around and their emotional default setting is just like they're pissed off, they're upset, they're skeptical, they're cynical. That's their default emotional setting, and things happen in their life which created belief systems, and they focused on those, and then it became their character. And that character is where they live now. That's where you, for instance, you're smiling a lot. That's why people like to be around you, right? And they feel that. They feel that vibration. We all can pick up on people's vibrations, and I don't mean it in a woo-woo situation. It's just what is. So it's great to ask yourself, what is my emotional default setting? Am I that person that's cynical, skeptical, making snide remarks, pessimistic? Right? Nothing wrong with it, but it's not going to serve you very well. And it's going to determine the actions you take, and it's going to influence the outcomes you produce. So we really want to pay attention to that. So we want to rewrite the story, right? Identify the fear, rewrite the story, and then we're going to create that story in a format that really actually feels good to us in our own words, and we're going to read it. We're going to say it out loud, right? So one of my personal mantras I shared with you, I'm resourceful, capable, flexible. I didn't always feel that way or believe it, but I believe it beyond a doubt now. I can't go back to my old way of thinking because I have hardwired that mantra, that belief into my mind. So no matter, even if I sometimes feel really down or I'm not sure how to get this, I don't stay there very long. It doesn't mean I never go there. I just don't get stuck there like I used to get stuck there, right? The intensity is lower, the frequency is lower, and the duration is lower. Because what I've done is I've trained my mind that when I go to that place, it triggers the empowering story. Oh, I'm feeling down. Oh, that reminds me, I'm resourceful, capable, and flexible.
Well, and that's why it's a practice.
Exactly.
Practice means that you are constantly improving.
Exactly.
I think flexible is actually the most important word there, because we can have a vision of what we think we want, but if we're flexible, we can be satisfied, and even more than satisfied, even beyond our wildest dreams, with something that is just a little bit different than what we thought we wanted.
Yeah, I like that.
I for my own story, when I was really young, I thought it would be so groovy to be a talk show host, or not a talk show host, but to be a DJ on a radio station. That would be a lot of fun to be a DJ on a radio station. And I even had a couple of friends who worked at the local. I lived in a small town called Salinas, California. If you are a Steinbeck fan, if you're a fan of John Steinbeck, then you know what Salinas is. So they both worked at the local radio station, and I would go and hang out with my friend Nicole. She I think she had the 11 o'clock to 3 in the morning spot, and I would just go hang out with her at the radio station. And it was a lot of fun. I was like, I want a job here. I want to work here. So what I did was I became a podcast host.
I love that.
I do similar things. I'm behind
Yes,
a mic.
do. Yes, you
I'm
do.
just not spinning tunes unless you count my theme music. Right? Right? So flexibility gave me something, the ability to just bend a little
Yes.
from the what I thought was the goal, gave me something that I really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really happy here. I love being a podcast host.
Yeah, it fills you
So-
up and you're good at it, right?
Yeah, and if I hadn't have had that flexibility, thank you for saying I'm good at it.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't had that flexibility, I'd probably still be wanting to be a DJ.
Yeah. And I love sometimes contrasting words. So flexible as opposed to being rigid, right?
Mm-hmm.
What a difference. I mean, and we all know, we've all had friends who are very rigid, or maybe you're rigid, right? But then we have that friend who's like, they're so flexible. They just kind of roll with it, you know? They're adaptable. And so, yeah, be intentional about your language as well, right?
And I think the word rigid really is a fear-based word. People
agree with
who
you.
are rigid are very fearful.
Yes. They may. Yeah. What comes to mind is there's probably a sense of feeling out of control and always needing to control.
Exactly. That's exactly what a person who's very rigid is, someone who's also very in control of everything that they do.
Yeah, and that used to be me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so you've talked about what you've done, but what did your life look like before, and what
Yeah.
does your life look like now?
you know, my life before I was always very optimistic, but boy, was I cynical. I was cynical, and I thought I was positive, but I really wasn't. And I was a judgmental SOB. I was so judgmental. Didn't know it. You know, I was into personal development. I was reading all the stuff, but these were in my blind spots, right? Where I was very judgmental and critical of myself, and that took a long time to see. And at the core of everything, Candace, very fearful. So it's an ongoing work, obviously. Still working on it. But I don't get stuck as frequently as I used to, and I extend a lot more grace to myself, and that's been something I've been working on.
Back in January, I sort of disconnected from most social media, and I was feeling a little lonely because when you disconnect from social media, you kind of especially when you work from home, you sort of disconnect with community. So what happened was someone introduced me to a network of female podcasters, and now I meet with them weekly, basically, and we have a little Slack group that we communicate in, and I'm connected to them all the time. So even though I felt like I lost, this is part of being flexible. I felt like I lost connection with some community because I basically walked away from social media. I found new community.
Yeah, I love that. And
So-
you were open too, right? So that's that flexible part, right? You were open to something else.
And I think I was looking for it too. I was looking for a group that made me feel good.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel good in the community that I was in, and I wasn't feeling good on social media platforms. But I feel good, and it's a little strange because I think I'm the oldest person in the room, which I'm only 55, so I'm not that old. But I feel like I'm the oldest person in the room, which is a little weird for me because most of my life I was the youngest person in the room. So that also means that I'm going through a transition in my life.
Yeah.
From being the youngest person to being one of the older people. So
Right.
which is interesting and educational. I'm learning a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm learning a lot. It's very, very interesting. I know that not everybody is willing to give up social media. Do you have advice on how to practice feeling good while you're on social media?
Yeah, actually I do. And I actually I stumbled on it accidentally, and it was just out of complete ignorance. I thought, so I would talk to my kids about some of the things that would show up in my reels, And I was like, oh, you know that one reel? And they're like, no, I don't. I was like, what do you mean? You never seen that? Because it shows up in my reels all the time. They're like, yeah, Papa, we have different algorithms. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have different algorithms. So you mean we can be intentional about creating what type of content shows up? Yes, Papa. I was like, oh, okay, got it. So that's my advice. Like, become more intentional about what's showing up in your feeds. What are you clicking on? Are you clicking on fear-based content? Are you clicking on stuff that creates a sense of uncertainty in your life?
In most of these social media platforms, the little 3 dots opens up the opportunity for you to not see this content ever again.
I didn't know that for a long time. And now I use it.
Yes. Yes. And also, I have a Chrome extension called, hold on, I want to make sure I get the name right, and there'll be a link to it in the show notes. My Chrome extension is called News Feed Eradicator, and it literally hides the news feed from the social media platform. So when you log in, you do not see the feed, which means when I log in to post my latest podcast episode, I don't get sucked into the well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just make my post and I exit the platform.
Yeah. You know? I love that. And you know what? I'm glad you mentioned not getting sucked into the well, because it's easy to get sucked into it. And I don't want people to beat themselves up over that. Social media is designed to suck you in.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And it's very strategic. It's very intentional. They understand how the brain works, right? This is not an accident. They have designed it to do this. You are a human. They understand how your brain works, and they understand how to suck you in. Yeah. So don't beat yourself up over it. Just get smart about it, like Candace has, and you become intentional about what shows up in your feed more and more and more.
So last week we talked to Jake Thomas. I think it was last week. We talked to Jake Thomas, who is an expert in not podcasts, but YouTube titles. And he says that the 3 click triggers that are most effective for titles, and it doesn't just mean YouTube, any kind of title, are curiosity, desire, and fear. Mm-hmm. Psychologically, fear is a effective way to attract people's attention.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are highly curious about fear. We want to know what to stay away from, right? We're hardwired to like pay attention to things that revolve around this thing called fear.
Well, and it's what are babies born with? Babies are born with instinct, and one of the basic instincts that a baby is born with is the instinct to suckle, and fear and fear, flight or flight, fight or flight. Those are just intrinsically in us when we were born. And it may be true of all mammals, that all mammals are born with those instincts.
Yeah, some sort of self-protective measures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and self-protection also includes eating. So the instinct to suckle and the instinct, the fight or flight instinct are what you're innately born with, and everybody has them. Yeah. Nutrition, survive. All of that is survival.
Yeah, all of it is survival. And in fact, it's funny that you brought this up, because the other night in bed, my wife's foot just brushed.
Isn't that a drinking game in bed?
Yes, it is. That's a fun one too.
That's one way to overcome fear, is to have a good laugh.
Yes, exactly. But her foot brushed against my shin just ever so gently, just like, and you can't tell if it's a bug in the bed or something, and the natural response was for my leg to jerk away. And it dawned on me in that moment, like, oh my gosh, that's a self-protection reaction, right? Mm-hmm. Because sometimes you get something on the back of your neck or something, and you're like, oh my gosh, is there a spider on me or something? And you have that involuntary reaction. Again, we are hardwired to pay attention to anything around fear.
Yeah, and if you aren't noticing those little things, then you're not connected. You're disconnected.
Yeah.
So when we're not paying attention, when we're not, if we get a mosquito bite, we should be, I mean, most of us feel it when we're getting a mosquito bite, and our instinct is to slap it. And if we don't, we've got some disconnect going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, wow. In episode 251, we did touch on using gratitude as a tool for radical resilience.
Yeah.
But I think we need to revisit it.
Let's do it.
So
gratitude, what I love about gratitude is the acknowledgement of something for which you cannot take credit. That's why I love gratitude. Gratitude is so great. It's not about me. It's not like, oh, look at me. I am not the center of my gratitude. Gratitude is the acknowledgement and the acknowledging the good, something good externally for which I cannot take credit.
Okay, do you remember that Snoop Dogg viral moment where he won some sort of Grammy or something, and he said, I want to thank myself?
I do remember that, yes.
Okay, so I think that we should be thanking ourselves as in addition to feeling grateful for things that we have no control over. Mm-hmm. So what is the difference between gratitude and thanking yourself? What is the thanking yourself?
Yeah, so that's like acknowledgement. That's like a self-acknowledgement, right? You're calling attention to and feeling a sense of pride, right? You're like, hey, I put the work into this.
Yeah, and pride is not a bad word.
It is not a bad thing. No, absolutely. I mean, I think it would be great if more of us had a greater sense of pride. Mm-hmm. In fact, I was reading about the word humility, and I know we don't use it this way anymore, but humility used to mean that you have a low self-worth. That person is humble. Oh, they don't have a very high way of thinking of themselves.
Oh, I don't like that at all.
We don't use it that way anymore, but that was the original word. But pride, yeah. And it is funny now because now we have like a kind of a negative connotation around this word. Oh, it's so prideful. Pride is not necessarily arrogance. I feel pride about that. Oh, look at this thing I created. Yeah, I feel good about that. I put a lot of hard work into it. I put a thought. I was very intentional. I learned a lot of lessons around this. I created that. It felt good. I'm happy to share it with people. Right?
Yeah.
That's in my mind, that's healthy. And gratitude is like, I can't take credit for any of it. The sunrise this morning, which was beautiful, by the way, I can't take credit for that. I feel grateful for that sunrise. Same thing for the sunset.
But you can be proud of yourself for getting up early enough to see it. Yeah.
I love that I'm a person who gets up early enough and prioritizes spending time in nature, witnessing the beauty of nature. I love that about myself. And I'm so grateful for the nature.
I think I'm going to pay more attention tomorrow morning when I wake. Because this morning, I went to grab my coffee. I'm not a morning person. So I went to grab and I live in Michigan, so days are very long in the summer. Mm-hmm. Like most mornings, the sun has already been up for an hour when I wake up during the summer because it's very long days. Like it gets dark at 10:30 at night. So I don't think I could handle living in Alaska because 10:30 is way too late for it to still be daylight outside. But this morning when I went to grab my coffee, I looked out the window and I was like, wow, what a gorgeous day. And I think I'm just going to pay more attention when I wake up ooh, what a gorgeous day. Or, ooh, look at the birds and oh, how fun the squirrels are running across the power lines, right? I live in a city, right? Yeah. Because you can do that one intentional thing to see something wonderful, even if it's a rainy day. If you can just see something beautiful out the window the first thing in the morning. That's a good practice.
Absolutely.
Thank you for inspiring it.
Oh, you bet. And I think we can go one step further too. And this is what I'm saying this because this is what I've been dealing with. So I've been doing my gratitudes, but I was realizing that I was feeling low. I've been facing some challenges in my life, business-wise and personally, and just a number of fronts, right? And I was just like, gosh, why I'm feeling off. I'm still doing my gratitudes, but why am I feeling off? And I was like, oh. And then I saw it. I was saying the gratitudes, but even while I was saying them, my mind was somewhere else. There was this narrative that was still playing because I've been so concerned with it. Mm-hmm. And what I realized is like, oh, my brain's still running that narrative, which means it's producing a chemical reaction called an emotion in my body, and that's what I'm feeling. So now we're talking about changing my physiology, really putting myself in a position to feel the emotion that I want to feel, right? If I want to feel lucky, or if I want to feel like optimistic, I've really got to put myself in a position, recall times that I've felt optimistic or felt lucky or felt enthusiastic or felt eager or felt hopeful. Recall those times, specific times when I've felt that way, and focus on those, because whatever we focus on, we feel. But focus is the key word.
Yeah.
And so what I found was I was going through some motions, which is not bad, but I needed to go deeper.
Yeah. The habit and a practice are maybe not the same thing.
Exactly. And so what I've had really been focusing on, just really in this past couple of weeks, is focusing on how do I want to feel. Okay, I'm doing the habitual mantras, but I'm really going to focus on those times in my life when I've had those specific emotions. Oh yeah, and I can capture that. Because all of us right now, if I said, hey Candace, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Can you get pissed off? Can you get mad? Can you get resentful?
Today, probably.
Yeah, right? We know how to do it.
Yeah.
We know how to access emotions.
Yeah.
And so what we want to begin to practice is accessing the emotions that feel good and that move us forward, because we always take action out of those emotions. And so that's the work I'm really focusing on lately.
And I think that's the work that most of us should be focusing on. I have a gratitude practice. I have an alarm set on my phone for 10:09 p.m. And at 10:09 p.m. I do 8 things. And I have not been doing the most important parts. Those 8 things, I haven't been doing the most important part, and that is focusing on the gratitude. I've been sort of doing like you did. It's a habit. And instead of being really intentional and mindful, I have just been glossing it over.
Mm-hmm.
So, it just that simple shift.
Yes.
That simple shift is really, the mindfulness is the way to be, we're talking about resilience and emotional resilience in very uncertain times, and intentional, mindful, focused gratitude is a way to be resilient.
Yes, absolutely. Intentional is the key word that you just said. Speaking it out loud, speaking it with emotion, right? Or if you're not speaking it, you're taking a moment and really visualizing it. You're really inviting that emotion in so you can feel it, because ultimately we want to change the chemistry in our body. We want to lower the cortisol from all the crap that we've been focusing on, and up the serotonin and the dopamine, all the good stuff. The way you, and this is called regulating your system, right? We're regulating our nervous system. How do you do that? You regulate your system by what you focus on, and then ultimately your breathing, right? But those 2 things, that's how you regulate your nervous system. And
it really is amazing. It's amazing how much better you feel after you take a couple of really deep breaths.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Because you're changing the chemistry in your body. You're flooding it with oxygen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and oxygen is a very healing element.
Yes.
Element. Is that what they're called? Yeah,
Yep.
periodic table.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It is though. When you scientifically, if you flood your body with oxygen, your blood flows better through your body, and when your blood is flowing better through your body, everything's works better.
Yeah.
So even if you just do it a couple of times a day, just take a couple of really deep breaths, you really will be healthier.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy how it really is amazing that tiny little shifts can make such a huge difference.
Massive. Huberman talks about the physiological sigh and the importance of that physiological sigh. It's a practice for slowing down your heart rate, like really quickly, and lessening your the cortisol production, really affecting your physiology intentionally. It's really, really neat.
I met someone recently who calls that the 1 second meditation.
I like that.
It is. It's a good way of calling it whatever. Whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, the effect is the same. You really do give yourself a reset. And when your computer isn't working right, what do? You restart it.
Yeah.
Well, taking a deep breath is it's like an instant restart.
Yeah. Good point. And and Candace, for all your listeners out there, you and I are talking about some important things. None of this means that we just put our head in the sand.
Exactly.
Right? We're still taking action. Like, right? Whatever side you're on, or whatever issue you're dealing with, we're not saying you just ignore it. No, you still go and deal with it. But if you can access it from a place of feeling good, you're going to be more effective.
Yeah.
And that's what we want.
That is something I've been really working on, is trying to have the flexibility to understand why people feel differently than I do about certain things, and try to be compassionate, in the hopes that my compassion will lead them to also be compassionate. I mean, I can't control what other people feel, but I can control how I react to it, and how open I am to understanding.
I love that. Can I address that for a minute?
Absolutely.
One of the chapters of my book is called How to Overcome Resentment. And it's an important chapter because there is so much resentment right now. Mm-hmm. And we resent people. The main reason we resent people is because they are not acting the way we want them to act. Okay? So that can happen in a family. That can happen at a political level, right? At a church level, and everything in between. So the thing, and I told you, I used to be a judgmental SOB. I judge everybody, right? What I was judging them was because they weren't acting in accordance to how I think they should act. They shouldn't. They weren't saying what I thought they should say. They weren't spending their money how I thought they should spend their money, or whatever. But now what I get is, they could not be any other way. They literally could not be any other way. And if I had their exact upbringing, if I had their exact upbringing, meaning my brain got wired the way their brain got wired, exactly, I would be saying and doing just like they are.
Yeah.
And that's not to say, and I'm not saying, by the way, that they're wrong. They're a different, we all have programming.
Yeah.
Their operating system processes life differently than mine. Candace,
and this is even true for siblings.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, even if you were raised in the exact same household by the same parents, you didn't have the same school teachers. You didn't have the same friends. You didn't have the same parents of other friends, of your friend,
Right.
Your friends' parents. You didn't have the same Girl Scout leader or whatever. I mean,
yeah. You didn't have the same birth order.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So even if it's your sibling that has different views than you do,
Yes.
then having the compassion, they just have a different set of circumstances and different set of beliefs.
Exactly. And they're all.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you with my
No, you're
epiphany.
No, that was good. That was good. Thank you. And what I've come to see is I just see everybody as a different computer. That's a Donald Trump computer. Oh, that's a Joe Biden computer. Oh, that's my wife, an Amy Ellingson computer. Oh, that's my daughter. That's a Sophia computer. Right? They're computers, and they couldn't be different. They have to be just the way their computer is. It's our operating systems on our phones. I have an iPhone that has a Apple operating system, right? As opposed to an Android phone, which has an Android operating system. Similar, but very different in many ways. And we're all playing different games. The fact of the matter is that some people on this planet are playing a game called World Domination. It's an actual game.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to remember...
It is a game.
Right? I used to watch this in cartoons growing up. There'd be like the weird little cartoon guy. He'd be trying to take over the world, right? And it seems so ridiculous. No. There are computers out there that are in people, and that's the game they're playing. Now, I'm not playing that game, so it looks really weird, and it seems very disturbing and unsettling to me. But that's what that game is playing. That's what that program is playing, that game, and that explains why they're doing what they're doing. Do I have to like it? No. But but I want to get rid of resentment.
Yeah.
Because resentment poisons me.
It doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't feel good at all. It doesn't mean I don't take action and stand up for what I believe, but I want to do it, like Gandhi, for instance. He had to sit across the table or across the room from the very people who wanted him dead.
Yeah.
He had to have such an emotional state and such compassion and empathy and understanding that he could be in that room and broker peace.
Yeah.
Because if he was just like full of resentment and hatred, he couldn't broker peace from that standpoint. And so that's what we have to do. You get to a place of feeling good, whatever that means to you, right? And you take action from there, because those actions are going to really serve you well and serve the greater good.
My concern right now is that there are so many people who feel good when they cause pain to others.
Mm-hmm. True.
And I think that's the thing that I don't feel good about right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is the number of people who are gleefully watching people suffer.
It's hard to take. It's hard to watch that.
I have two little comments that I wanted to make. One of them is I want to reel back to the word humility changing its meaning.
Yeah.
So my husband and I are launching a brand new podcast where we read a sci-fi book and then we talk about it. And the book that we are reading right now takes place 100 years in the future. And the English language has changed in the future. But when you think about it, if you listen to movies from 100 years ago, well, they didn't have talking movies 100 years ago. If you listen to movies from 80 years ago, the way that people talked 80 years ago is way different than the way we talk now. And when you read Shakespeare, I mean, some people don't even understand Shakespeare because and that's only 500 years, right? So language evolves over time, and it evolves by country too. So the word pissed in the United States means something completely different than what it means in England.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
And so we have to be mindful of what does somebody really mean when they say what they're saying.
Yeah. That's gonna be a neat episode when you guys do that.
Yeah, my new podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, Shane's been on the show with me. It's going to be interesting co-hosting a show with him.
Yeah.
But we already have I think the first 7 or 8 episodes mapped out. We haven't recorded any of it yet, but we've got guests lined up. Do you like science fiction?
I'm not a huge, but as you were saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, there's several people in my world that I'm like, I got to tell people about this for sure.
Yeah,
they're gonna
please
love
introduce me. If they're sci-fi fans and they like to read, I would love to have them on the show. They suggest the book, and then we read it together. We read it, and then we talk about it on the show. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm addicted to podcasting. and then the other thing I wanted to talk about was this whole idea of resetting, and everybody has a different operating system, and we're all different computers.
Yeah.
So Headliner app is this really cool tool that churns audio podcasts into audiograms, which are little 60-second clips, and it does it through an AI. Headliner came out with a new tool called TLDL, Too Long Didn't Listen, and it's in beta right now. And I have a relationship with Headliner. I don't even know how it happened, but I know folks at Headliner, so they told me about it early, so I'm playing with the beta. And I couldn't get it to work on my computer. I could get it to work on Edge, but I couldn't get it to work on Chrome. And so my friend Elise said, let me send this up as a tech support. So the tech support guy and I got on a Zoom call or his Google Meet or whatever it was, and he couldn't figure out why it wasn't working for me. And so he got two of the developers. So it's me, the tech support dude, and two developers in a Zoom call. And finally I went, I wonder if I have Chrome up to date. And so it turned out I didn't. And the guy, the tech support guy, had the same version of Chrome I did. So we didn't think that was the problem. So I updated Chrome to the latest version, and all of a sudden, TLDL worked. So sometimes we just need an upgrade.
That's right. And that comes back to you being resourceful, capable, and flexible.
That's right. That's right. And two developers, tech support, and me. And I'm the one who figured out what the problem was.
I love it. Way to go.
But so kudos to Headliner. This is a great new tool, TLDL. If you like to listen to podcasts, but you don't have an hour to listen to an hour-long show, there's a link in the show notes so you can check out the beta of this new tool, TLDL. Cool. It's really groovy. And if you want to be the first to know when the new podcast goes live, get on the mailing list. So click on the subscribe button so that you get the email updates.
Right on.
All right, Fletcher Ellingson, this is your moment of gratitude. For whom or what are you most grateful?
I am grateful for nature because it feels really good. And I'm grateful for my wife. She talk about grace. And I feel extremely fortunate to have the marriage that I have. I also want to just say that I'm also grateful for you and this podcast. And because you and I have talked about on this very episode, like there's a lot of crap going on in the world, but you are putting out intentionally feel-good content that lifts people up, that elevates people, that encourages them, that inspires them. So thank you very much for being that source of contribution and inspiration.
Thanks for tuning in to Gratitude Geek, the podcast for grateful micropreneurs building genuine, lasting relationships with clients, colleagues, and community. Our theme music is by Rev Brock and Soul Lily. A huge thank you to our guest, Fletcher Ellingson. You can find his links in the show notes at gratitudegeek.com. This is episode 275. I've been your host, Candice Rodarty. Stay groovy, my friends.
Stay groovy.